It's truly an honor for us to have today two stalwarts, not one, but two stalwarts today at Finacle Institute, Siddhartha Rastogi sir and Koushik Mohan sir. Let me take the honor of introducing our guests. Siddhartha Rastogi sir is a managing director and chief operating officer of Ambit Asset Management. He was one of the founding members of IIFL Private Wealth and has spent more than 15 years with Ambit Asset Management. We are really looking forward to learn quite a lot from Siddharth sir, as well as Koushik sir, who is a lead analyst at Ashika Group and was an ex-fund manager at Moat India. So I personally had the privilege of connecting with both these two stalwarts since last 3 years. And it's truly an honor to have both of you guys here at Finacle Institute. I, we are really looking forward to learn on a couple of topics which these stalwarts have agreed to speak on. And let me walk everybody through the agenda. So we will be learning about change in the investing landscape, which is happening with the emergence of PSUs, the heavy industry and cyclical delivery consistency. At the same time, we'll also learn from Siddharth sir on one of my favorite topics, which is Modi 3.0, coalition curse or a cure in Bharat's progress. And last but not least, we would love to hear from both of our stalwarts who have recently authored an amazing book called How to Multiply Your Wealth and Career 100x. I think there could be no better platform for us to have these two speakers to talk about this, because this is something which all of these budding investors can learn from. So it's genuinely an honor to have both of you, Siddharth sir and Koushik sir. Over to you guys.
Thanks, sir. Thanks for the great warm welcome for us. I'm very happy to be here.
Thanks, Shailesh. So let's start. Koushik, do you want to take lead?
Sir, every time as the age, it's you.
Okay. So so ladies and gentlemen, the new paradigm of investing. The last decade belonged to quality, consistency. Everybody spoke about businesses which have been resilient for decades, and those are the businesses that they can be bought at any price. That was the main theme which played through and through for the last decade. We saw that businesses which can keep generating free cash flows, businesses which have distribution modes, businesses where the demand is acyclical, those remain the largest wealth creators. And lot of folks started calling it that's where the market lies. However, things changed. Things changed predominantly post-COVID. So if I have to break this entire conversation, let me break it into 2 or 3 parts. Number one is what happened in 2016. How is it correlated to where markets are today? That is number one. Number two, what happened in the investment behavior post-COVID? And number three, how the government policies ensured that the investing paradigm also changed. So the first part is, obviously, after Prime Minister Modi came at the helm of affairs, we all know that he did the JAM Trinity. What it did a fantastic thing which was unheard, unseen before. So the number of Jan Dhan accounts, significant jump in the Jan Dhan accounts. It meant 3 simple things for the economy and for the people. Number one, the leakage in the benefits which are accruing from the government side reduced tremendously. At one point in time, it was said that during the Congress's regime, there was as high leakage of 80 to 90% in the government benefits. That was nipped. Imagine the budget, the budget of the country, the budget of the country, and roughly around 16 to 18% directly or indirectly comes from the government itself, and large portion of it getting leaked out. Now, these can be benefits in terms of pension, these can be in terms of subsidies, these can be in form of payouts, these can be in any format. There was leakage, there was greasing in the system. And when this system was made efficient, automatically the money moved in the bottom of the pyramid. Now, immediately when this started to happen, we saw buoyancy in demand. We saw buoyancy in demand for the bottom of the pyramid goods and services as well. And that's when the last decade belonged to the businesses which were FMCG oriented, which were staples oriented, which were bottom of the pyramid oriented. And then came the demonetization. With the demonetization, large part of the cash went into the system, though some part of the cash has come out of the system again, but large part of the cash went into the system. Now, when this cash goes into the system, where did it go? Automatically, again, large part going to the PSU banks. And when this money went to PSU banks in 2017, we saw massive rally backed by so much of liquidity. And then came the 2018 and 2019. 2018 was the era when India witnessed a black swan which was quite similar to what happened in 2008 in United States. And largely, it was in the decade of 2000 to 2010 when these excesses, when these wrong debt were given to lot of corporates. And these corporates obviously couldn't make it solvent, and hence we saw collapse of two large institutions, and the ripple effect was felt by the NBFCs across the credit crisis of Bharat. Thanks to that credit crisis, thanks to the JAM Trinity, thanks to the Jan Dhan, thanks to the demonetization, three things were adopted. Number one, people realized that in the debt markets or in the credit side, on the NBFC side, asset growth matters, but liability matters more. Earlier, people only used to look at long assets, short liabilities, short-term liabilities matching the long-term asset book. That started to change. People started looking at long liabilities because asset growth can be anytime propelled. But to raise liabilities in the longer term is a challenge. And that's where that recognition happened. And when the COVID struck with all this background, it was Providence's blessings on us. Because we were already prepared, because there was mayhem in the past, and all the corporates, all the institutions, everybody was compliant and had adequate reserve to survive through. Also, COVID changed the way people started thinking. People started going light on the heavy assets. People started going light on the heaviest assets like real estate, because of which what one saw is investing. And for the first time, we saw retail participation, and retail participation with a lot of stability. Otherwise, earlier, if I talk about from 1992 onwards, whenever there is a crash, whenever there is a panic, retail would exit at the bottom. But this time around, whenever the challenges occurred, retail invested with even more prowess. And why did this happen? Because people will think that people have overnight become intelligent. No. The answer lies there are some quality fin influencers. There are some quality educationists in the financial space who ensured that right information goes to the masses. Earlier, investing was a privilege. Investing was a privilege of the few. But this COVID and this financial literacy through digital medium, financial literacy through digital medium democratized financing, understanding, financial understanding, and investing patterns. Because of which people realized that, hey, look, ups and downs are short term. Ultimately, what will stand out is earnings, earnings growth. And if those earnings growth are bought at reasonable prices, people made a lot of money during COVID times. And then there was sequential volatility starting from October, November of 21, more so during 22, when Ukraine and Russian war happened. Interestingly, globally, the world got caught in the inflation challenges. The world got caught in the negative downturn of the market. However, India stood strong. India stood resilient. Let me give you some very interesting numbers around it. So in 2008, roughly around $24-25 billion were sold by FIIs in India. 2008, ladies and gentlemen, you may have been just born or you may have been just going to school. It was very, very long time ago. $24-25 billion, and Nifty was down. Nifty was down by close to 52 odd percent point to point calendar first day to last day of 2008. In 2022, FIs are being sold 16 to 17 billion dollars. However, Nifty was up by 4.5 odd percent when the US markets were down by closer to 55, 58 odd percent from the peak. So what happened is, when FIs were selling, there were buyers in the form of you, in the form of me, in the form of a lot of HNIs, a lot of individuals, a lot of retail investors, and domestic mutual funds. We all know the story of the domestic mutual funds. And those domestic mutual funds started buying heavily, ensuring that whatever selling is coming from the international market is absorbed. Another interesting thing is the ownership. Till about a decade back, the FIs used to own closer to 28, 29%, 30%, one third, roughly around 30 odd percent of the total market cap of India a decade back. Today, they are down to 18 odd percent. Domestic participation, domestic mutual funds and individuals put together. Individuals means non-institution residents, they barely used to own closer to 2.5% of market capitalization of India. Today, they stand at 8.5, along with mutual funds, which is again another 8.5, 8.75, 8.75%. Put together, they are closer to 17.5, quarter to 18 odd percent. So between both of them, they are neck to neck, almost neck to neck. And maybe next 2 years time frame, what you're going to see is that the domestic ownership of the domestic markets will be in the hands of the domestic people, which means the setup of Atmanirbhar in capital markets is going to be truly seen, which means markets are not going to react to the whims and fancies of the global markets, but because of the domestic growth, because of the domestic earning cycle, and because of the future prospects of the country and its companies. So that's one major shift which we saw. We a little bit spoke about the benefit which accrued to the PSU banks from the Jan Dhan and demonetization. What it did do, what it did in terms of the banking. So think about it. Just in 2016 and 17, the consolidated losses of the PSU banks was closer to 62, 63 odd thousand odd crores. Private sector banks at the same time, were closer to making 60, 70,000 odd crores of profit. So somebody in the negative, red, somebody in the green, exactly opposite numbers. Market cap of private sector, including NBFCs, was closer to 30, 32 odd percent of the Nifty. Public sector, barely 2 to 3%. I'm talking about 2016, 2017 early. Bingo. In next 7, 8 years, in 6, 7 years, cost of financing has come down. Reckless lending to corporates has vanished. People have become much more cognizant of the bank's resources. So imagine how many VRS have run into the PSU banks? None. How many people have totally changed in the PSU banks? Nothing. There's no significant change. Only the psychology, only the ethics, only the morality of people in the PSU banks has changed. Why has it changed? Because the leadership has changed. What did the leadership of Bharat say? Say that you do the good thing will happen to you. Don't be scared of opposing the bad. Don't be scared of opposing the bad, and good things will happen to you. Just by this confidence, the PSU banks have turned around. The market, which was largely dominated by the private sector banks into the lending space, retail lending to be precise, PSU banks came full throttle. And they became extremely competitive. Why? Because their cost of financing is low. Their systems and processes, their IT functions improved phenomenally well. Private sector banks obviously have a limitation of the cost of financing. Beyond a point, they can't attract lower cost of funds. And they were playing on the efficiency game. Here, PSU banks started playing in the same market, which was left vacant for the private sector banks till some time back. The PSU banks entered full throttle with efficiency, with low cost of financing. And then there's no looking back. Last year, if my memory serves me right, the consolidated profits, remember what I said, 60, 70,000 odd crores profit and 60, 70 odd thousand crores negative or losses of the PSUs, that jumped for private sector, it moved double. From 2016, 17, moved to double now, 128, 130, 1 lakh 30,000 odd crores in rupees terms, the profits of the private sector banks. For the PSUs, from negative, it has come to close to 1 lakh crores. And more recently, SBI, State Bank of India, the largest public sector bank, and this is not a stock recommendation that you should buy, State Bank of India, which is the largest bank and leads the initiative of all the PSU banks, itself has declared in their public commentary that their endeavor is to touch 1 lakh crore of profits. A single bank, the first bank to do so. So imagine how the change in perspective, change in environment, change in thoughts can change everything. Let me at this juncture tell you a very interesting story, and post which I will talk about talk about how what our mind believes and actually what happens is actually totally reverse. So this is actually a reality. So in early 20th century, when Britishers dominated the entire world, also entire India and Indian subcontinent, and at that point in time, before the first European war, people call it World War. I call it European War because it largely happened in Europe. The rest everyone else became a party to it from outside. So the first European war or the first World War before that, when Britishers had total control on the Indian subcontinent, at that point in time, it was a punishment posting for Britishers to come to India. So the worst of Britishers was sent to India because there was a perception that people are illiterate. They're already in last 100, years, they had sucked the entire wealth of the country. So it's an impoverished country. And only ruthless people were sent. So when these ruthless Britishers came to India, they wanted some fun, they wanted some enjoyment. And that's why gymkhanas were created all across the country. Also, similar gymkhana was created in Delhi Gymkhana. All these Britishers ruthlessly would be ruthless to the Indians through the day, and in the evening they'll come in the Delhi Gymkhana and they will have luxury. They will have the best of wine, they'll have the best of food, etc. But there was a small problem. This Delhi Gymkhana was infested with snakes, lots and lots of snakes. So Britishers got anxious. They tried all their tricks, but they couldn't remove the snakes. They will come from everywhere. And that's where they asked their best person, their best British mind to suggest. And the guy said, it's very simple. These Indians are greedy people. Just give them a bounty. Just tell them to kill the snakes, and whosoever kills the snakes, they'll get money. And these poor Indians, they will do anything for money. Those lesser brained people didn't know the expertise of Indians, and they implemented this. They implemented this that whosoever will bring the dead skin snake, the dead snake skin, the skin of the dead snake, he'll get a bounty, a large bounty. Fantastic. For next 6 months, lots of snake skin came and a lot of money was paid out. And that money kept on going, and the snake population started to reduce. It reduced. But after 4 5 months, it started to stagnate. The numbers weren't coming down. People were still finding. From 100, they came down to 30, 40, but they remained at that level. And then 6 months passed, seventh month passed, the bounty kept on increasing, the amount kept on increasing, but the number remained resilient. The smart, so-called smart Britishers, they went back and asked what happened. Nobody had any answer. So they called an Indian, because if you would have read in the history, they were ICS people, civil servants appointed by the Britishers who were Indians. And they called one of the smart ICS officers. And that ICS officer came. He said, give me 2 days and let me understand. So he went searching for the reasons. He went around. And what he found was very interesting. After 2 days, and he said that what these Indians have done is they have created a business. So the Britishers couldn't understand what business. What can you do with a snake? So the civil servant said that since you have created a bounty, these smart Indians have created a small breeding ground near their houses where they breed snakes. And whenever the snake becomes little, it grows up, it grows older, they kill that snake and bring the skin to you, and they get the bounty. And they have got into this business. And that is the reason the numbers are not declining beyond a point. Britishers got livid. Britishers got really harrowed. They didn't know what to do. And they, in anger, abolished the scheme. As soon as they abolished the scheme, the Indians, who had no utility for the snakes, left all the snakes. And all the snakes went out in open. And it perpetuated the problem. It perpetuated the problem rather than solving the problem. And this is, in modern economics, is called Cobra Effect, the law of unintended consequences, which means when you start thinking of the problem from one angle and you start solving the problem only from one angle and you give a solution, actually the solution perpetuates the problem rather than solving it. Exactly the similar thing again happened in Delhi when the former chief minister of Delhi implemented a odd and even in Delhi, and he thought that people of Delhi would start using public transport, and that will reduce the pollution, because the pollution levels in Delhi became highest or second highest in the world. They were unlivable. And they created the similar kind of practice. Unfortunately, because of that scheme, everybody who had one car started buying second car, but they couldn't afford the second car. So what they did, they bought the second hand. They bought the second hand car, which is 14, 15, 20 years old at dirt cheap prices with an odd or even number plate, depending on what they required. They greased the system, they bribed the system to get the certificate, and it created more pollution rather than solving the problem of pollution. Similar thing happens in investing. In the last decade, when after demonetization and the after the demonetization, when the system totally got flooded with the money, all of a sudden, and the DBT leakages were stopped, all of a sudden, businesses which were doing well, businesses which had great earnings, but consistent earnings, they started commanding a huge premium. Some of them started to be valued even higher than 100, 110, 120 PE multiple. Essentially, what is a PE multiple? A PE multiple is nothing, but by when can you get your portion of the profits? You are a shareholder, you are one shareholder, 10 shareholder, you own 10 shares or one share. PE is nothing but your share of profit in the company, but you are paying an upfront price today. And you are all right to wait for so many years for that net profit to accrue to you. And it became historically high. And that's where the fallacy comes in. That if you are only looking at one parameter and start investing, which is consistency and earnings and consistency of earnings, and you'll buy at any price, the challenge would be that you may have time-wise, or sometimes if the market slows down, there can be price-wise correction. So you are thinking that earnings are consistent, hence I can buy at any price and I'll make money. But you may not end up making money for too long. And that's where after 2020 trends change. when government started to invest in capex for the creation of infrastructure. So COVID happened. One thing which I spoke about is the digitization of the financial education, enabling the enabling the last man standing also to understand the concept of investing and finance. Second thing, what it did is the government's drive or the government's initiative. So when COVID happened, I don't know if you guys remember, in the month of March and April, barring financial services and barring technology, IT, rest all physical goods and services were almost down to zero. So there was a decline of almost 100% month on month. And when that happened, there were only two ways from the macroeconomic perspective to propel demand. One is either you put a fiscal stimulus or you put a monetary stimulus. What does that mean? Monetary stimulus basically means I give more money into your hands when you don't have earning capability or earning capacity has gone down. I give you more money in your hands. So US and a lot of other European nations did that. They doled out $600 to $2,400 per month to individuals and institutions to run through to ensure that the demand increases. And that happened. But demand of what? During COVID, nobody could consume any services. So people started ordering more and more goods. Those goods were manufactured in China, and China made tons of money on the freight as well as on the manufacturing. US was thinking that the demand is going up. When COVID receded, the demand of services naturally went up. Demand for goods was already high. Combining both of it, inflation skyrocketed. US inflation after 84 for the first time hit a number of closer to 9.5%. 9.5% inflation in United States of America, which has seen inflation largely between 1.8 to 2.2, 2.3%. On the other side, India did something else. We didn't go for the monetary stimulus. We said COVID happened. Please give three things free. One is vaccines, so that you remain resilient, you remain stronger, you remain healthy. Number two, food, free food, so that you don't have to worry about your existence even if you don't have work. Number three, opportunity to work if you like. And that came through the fiscal stimulus, where the government multiplied its capex infrastructure. So for the first time in the history of India, the capex spent in real terms, in monetary terms, has grown 3.3x 3.3x in 4 to 5 years time frame. Never has it done so much capex at such fast pace. Because of this capex, all the sectors, all the segments, all the geographies, everybody got benefited. When they started making more money, they started saving more money. As they started saving more money, they started investing more money. And that's how the economy started to progress. And that is the reason India never saw very high inflation. That is the reason India never saw dramatic decline in the growth of the country. That is the reason why companies didn't face so much of hardship in India. Because demand remained buoyant, investments from the capex, from the government side remained buoyant. What is the benefit of it on the stock market? Where did this money go? Just to give you a perspective, one sector we'll take is defense. Defense, a sector which was never heard of, even uh, which was never even thought prior to 2020. Prior COVID, nobody even knew what is defense, what is where do you invest in defense if you want to have some exposure, etc. There was absolutely ignorance about defense. But what government did? So interestingly, understand the data and statistics here. So for last 20, 30 years, the government budget on defense has been closer to 2% of the GDP. It ranges between 1.9 to 2.2% of the total GDP. Now imagine a decade back when our economy was $1.6 trillion or $2 trillion, whichever number you want to take, depending on the date when you are taking it. So imagine you take a number which is closer to a $2 trillion or a $1.5 trillion. If I take $1.5 trillion and if I take 2% of that number, that comes to $30 billion. That $30 billion, 60%, 65%, that money, 2/3 of the money. So we spoke about $30 billion, $20 billion straight money in dollar terms will be sent outside the country to buy goods, to buy weaponry, to buy equipment, to buy all the arms ammunition in the country. And when you buy all of it in the country, you are not only buying it, you're also taking a long-term annuity contract, which means you are creating some earnings. You are creating some earning for the foreign entity, because when you are bringing something, you have to maintain it also for the longer term. And when you have to maintain it for the longest period of time, you have to pay a charge also for it to maintain, for all the defense equipment, whether it is fighter planes, whether it is guns, whether it is military tanks, whether it is anti-tank radars, whether it is any kind of military equipment, you have to have a maintenance, and those maintenance payouts are also hefty. What government did after 2020, what we spoke about, is the capex. This 60% is nipped. Government started to say that everything you should spend in India, barring 4-5%, 95% of the spending. So imagine today we are closer to a $4 trillion economy, we are 3.95. So imagine $4 trillion, and if you take 2% of it, you're talking about $80 billion, and of $80 billion, closer to $78 billion is spent in India. Incrementally, imagine you were spending $10 billion in India, $15 billion in India. Today, you're going to spend $60 billion more in India, $65 billion more in India. Ultimately, who will benefit? The Indian companies. Any large defense company does not manufacture everything by itself. So it needs to subcontract. So it has to give defense equipment, small equipment. So everybody benefits out of it. Some of them are in the unlisted space, some of them are in the listed space. And hence, instead of one person making tons of money, instead of one country making tons of money, Lockheed Martin only making tons of money, you have lots of smaller companies making money. Democratizing the wealth, democratizing investment prowess. So this is the paradigm shift which has happened. And this is a continuous spend. The government cannot not spend on defense. Similarly, across sectors, electronic manufacturing services, it was zilch, it was almost negligible. Today, again, in the electronic manufacturing services, India is one of the leaders. Smartphone manufacturing, semiconductor manufacturing, drone manufacturing. So there are innumerable sectors which didn't exist. They existed, but they didn't exist from the market perspective because they weren't creating wealth. and they were not looked at before 2020. And that has changed. One move of the government of the fiscal stimulus at the right place at the right time. I'll take a pause here. I will invite Koushik to talk a little bit about the investing style. He should talk about some of the nuances of the cash flows. He should talk a little bit about the way one should start thinking of the businesses, connecting the grassroots level business and the bookkeeping, both of it conjoined. Koushik, you
Sure,
want to
sir.
take over?
Thanks for that. I think I would never be tired by listening to you for sure. It's been very long conversations that we had. So here I will take more on a pause on the side that I will also now till now we heard about how is the macro looking, right? So I would like to everyone come and see the micro of the system. So I'll just share one small presentation that I made. I hope the presentation is visible.
Yes, Koushik.
Yes.
Great. So there was recently this conversation happened between one of me and one of the great fund managers of India. So he asked me that why India at this levels, because like also you got an answer from Siddhartha sir regarding why India at this levels. But I would like to take on more deep root levels of this. This is somewhere here. Like everyone can see here this data, right? GDP per capita growth and the population growth. You can see that the population growth has been stagnated, but the GDP per capita growth has been very, very high. And it somewhat tells that every Indian per unit level is becoming richer, right? So that's the reason per unit level, you see that $2,500 per person, around 9% CAGR is what we are looking at the economy. And majority of this one is coming from 80% rural income spending is happening. So income levels are increasing in the population and everything looks very interesting, right? So I would like to take you to another interesting data. So anyone can take this question, like what's the current GDP of our India? Anyone?
About to reach $4 trillion.
It's 4 trillion. So, right, it's somewhere near 3.9 trillion. But let me tell you an interesting data. If you look at in PPT terms, purchasing power parity terms, we lie the third largest economy, and our economy as per PPT terms, it is 14.59 trillion. That means that India is rich. It's not poor. And in the GDP terms, if you look at it, it's like fifth largest economy in the GDP terms, but in the PPP terms, we're the third largest economy. If you look at China as a country, it is the first largest country in the PPP terms, but in the GDP terms, it is the second largest economy. So like you would have heard about, there is one index, right? Mac Burger Index. So McDonald's का burger हर जगह मिलता है. So if you see the prices of McDonald's burger in India, somewhere around 50, 60 rupees or 70 rupees max to max. But if you go for US, it is $4, $3 to $4. So if you multiply that with the currency differentiation, it almost comes to be around 320 to 400 rupees. But in the same quality, same burger in India, cost you around 70 rupees. The cost of living in US is higher than India. Same level of lifestyle you need it in US, you need to spend higher. And but the same thing, if you are putting it in India, you are living the best lifestyle that you can have. And that's the reason India is rich again. So till now we heard from sir like how the macro things are happening. So we at Ashika, we did one micro level study. So I would like to take about why India as a manufacturing hub. So here is a place called as Tirupur from Tamil Nadu. This is a location from Tamil Nadu, which doesn't have an airport, not even an airport, which only has an railway unit. It has a railway stop and also in two highways. That's the connectivity. But you know, 80% India ka kinetware, cotton kinetware, is getting exported from only one location without having an airport. That's the strength of Tirupur. How many of you use here perfumes? I hope everyone would love to use it, right? Let me tell you one interesting data here. World economy, matlab I'm not talking about India, world is dependent on perfume. Main oil, जो ingredient चलता है perfume के अंदर, the main ingredient, उसका 16% concentration comes from only one location, that is Kanuj from UP. Anything happens to this location, the perfume market will be like upar niche. That's the strength over here. Let me take you to the Mysore. A lot of listed companies are coming out from here, this location. EMS sector अब बहुत सारा सुन रहे ना, like for the electronic circuit boards and all. Let me tell you, in this one single location, इंडिया का 70% डिमांड इधर से ही कैटर होता है. हमारा जो भी लैपटॉप्स है, जो भी मोबाइल फोन्स हम यूज कर रहे हैं, every 4 में 2 at least will have this their product from this one location. Anything happening to Mysore, that means that world is going to see an up down in its prices of laptops, up down in its prices of mobile phones. That's the dominance. Like recent times, you would have heard that India has become the second largest exporter of mobile phones, right? And also, as per the volume, we even surpassed China at one day or something in the volume terms. But it again, we became the second largest. So let me tell you, this comes from only one location. But it's not location, it's from one location to another location. It's like Bangalore to Chennai highway. This single highway has 2200 plus MSMEs here located who are only dependent on mobile phone manufacturing units. I think why Dixon is not here, but yeah, they have small unit over here, but Dixon is not from this location. But despite that, this one simple place leads to the 90% of India to produce its mobile phones. I think Gujarat, I think you all are like very much related to Gujarat. Let me tell you another location in Gujarat, that is Chitkul. We know that Chitkul is the 45% India ka demand cater karta hai in the solar energy. They make their modules over here. And 2% ka world economic ka demand cater karta hai in the solar space. So if you look at solar, what is solar? Solar ka module, solar ka main base hota hai module. Module is just kapda. उसके अंदर चलता है बैटरीज. बैटरी बनता है सिलिका से, right? In this battery and silica and all, China is dominating. Now, India started dominating in the module manufacturing. Now, what people are doing is that here in this location, there is one recent, one company will get listed now. If you look at them, they are having their technology is such a large thing. And if you look at the Chitkul location and if you go to their factory, you will see that हमको लगता है वो चाइना इधर हिंदुस्तान में आ गया क्या. That's the dominance they have. Another interesting note here. Hyderabad, everyone know about Hyderabad, right? Let me tell you, Hyderabad is known for its API. All the listed entities of any pharma companies or large API companies, you see them that they come from the Hyderabad location for the pharma side. And it accounts for 40% of bulk drug production in India. 40% of bulk drug productions in India. It is like Secunderabad and Hyderabad. These are the two places from same location. It's just cousin brothers, both are in the same place. They produce 40% of bulk drug production. Anything happening to this location, the entire world will suffer. Dahol, again, Gujarat. You might be knowing that this is a place, Dahej and Dahol. This is contributing 19% world ka, not India, world ka. एक्सपोर्ट मार्केट में वर्ल्ड का पूरा लेंगे तो स्पेशलिटी केमिकल का 19% comes from only one location. A small problem in Dahol or Dahej leads your entire economy of the world crashing down on the chemical sector. Bangalore, another interesting place. It's called as the Silicon Valley of Asia. You might be knowing a lot of startups come from here. A lot of IT exports happen here. And recent times you would have heard that our Indian IT exports surpass than the Indian imports of oil. That's the dominance of Bangalore. Like अब सब लोग तो रेलवे में चलते हैं, like we go in a train, right? Let me tell you, train manufacturing एक ही जगह में होता है हिंदुस्तान में. That is Kolkata, West Bengal. 25,000 crores plus sales of vegans or vegan related auxiliaries happens from only one location, that is Kolkata. This is micro India. Let me take more deeper here. Morbi, abhi घर में like for example, you take about any ceramic products. This one single location dominates in it, and also onto wall clocks. Wall clocks जो हमने घर में देखता है ना, specialty clocks or like the premium clocks and all, everything comes from this place. हाँ, one listed company also, if you have seen about Ethos, lot of their Ethos management का top level, if you see, they also come from Morbi. This is because of the culture that they go there. Rajkot, and another interesting company. इधर का blacksmith community, they are actual engineers. Let me tell you, they are reverse engineers. उनको जो भी मशीन दे दीजिए उसका उल्टा पुल्टा बना के सेम मशीन का सेम आउटपुट दिला के दे देंगे. That's the strength of Rajkot. आपको वर्ल्ड में लाइक इफ यू गो फॉर एनी अदर कंट्री यू माइट फाइंड दैट सेम मशीनरी फॉर 10 करोड़ में लेके आ रहे हो, इधर आपको 20 लाख में बन जाएगा वही मशीन. That's the strength over here. Hosur, another interesting location. You know, automobile components, हिंदुस्तान में जो भी गाड़ियां चलती है उसका automobile components 35% contributes from only one location, that's Hosur. Chennai, automobile finished product जो भी बनता है उसका majority factories are in Chennai. लुधियाना, हाईटेक साइकिल्स, मतलब अटलास से लेके जो भी साइकिल का कंपनी बात कर लीजिए वर्ल्ड पे और इंडिया पे, दे कम फ्रॉम ओनली वन लोकेशन. जलंधर, यू नो, हमको सबको तो प्यार है ना क्रिकेट खेलने में, पूरा दुनिया ना 67% ऑफ वर्ल्ड buys from only one location, that is Jalandhar. That's the dominance in cricket that we have. Shivkashi, अभी जो I think in another 1 month we have Diwali. So if you look at entire world, 70% of Indian consumption is coming from Shivkashi, and world ka 4% consumption is coming from Shivkashi. Single location, a small town which is smaller than even Mumbai or even smaller than the Surat. So Satra, so any product you buy, any packaging products you buy, the plastic packaging जो उधर होता है ना, that comes from only one place. Food packaging का वो पैकेज जो टेली होता है, that comes from this location. This is actually India. हम सब लोग मैक्रो में बहुत बिलीव करते हैं, बट मैक्रो ना किसी और का रिसर्च, उसके बाद हमारा रिसर्च बनता है. बट दिस इज ग्राउंड रिसर्च. If you come into the land and if you see the companies, right, then you'll understand what is actually happening. Why every company of one product related and why that single place is dominating that location. That's where the research lies at. Lot of people tell we are Hindustan ka matlab kya hai? Like you would have also read that this interesting data is taken from Bloom Ventures, Indus Valley report se. Affluent India ka matlab kya hai? Matlab कौन है हिंदुस्तान? Who is India? So if you look at India's population, it's somewhere around 1.4 lakh crores. On an average, 5 लोगों का आप घर पे ले लेंगे तो it's coming around 30 lakh households. According to 2023-24 ITR data के according, 5 lakh का income के level के ऊपर जो household है, that is only 7.5 lakh families. Which means that only 7.5 lakh families are the consumers are of India. जो भी आपको बेचना है, ये पूरा का पूरा माल बिकता है only for this 7.5 lakh. AC से लेके washing machine से लेके any product you talk about. Today, India is one of the biggest consumer as well as producer in the world. We will surpass very soon China. We have 80 lakh crore of internet users, 53 crore of social media users. E-commerce में we have 18 crore base and we are growing at 20% plus. The growth rate of the entire country is very, very fast. If I'm going right, every Indian, that is 1.4 lakh people, if you remove that बच्चे जो 10 years से नीचे है, if you see the calculate the mobile phones that need to be produced, I think in another 5 years will be India full out. That kind of growth is coming out. We have number of credit cards is 8.5 crore credit cards. But 8.5 crore credit cards mein, if you look at very clearly, only 2 crore credit card holders make 99% of the revenue of the banking system. It's a very, very interesting. पूरा banking system जो credit card से धंधा से चलाता है ना पैसा, वो बस 2 करोड़ लोगों से चलाता है, उनका घर पूरा उन्हीं की वजह से बन रहा है. And we have 3.7 crore unique mutual fund holders. यूनिक म्यूचुअल फंड होल्डर्स. ये 3.7 करोड़ का होल्डर्स का इंटरेस्टिंग डेटा आप और एक देखेंगे तो 6 मंथ्स के ऊपर, मतलब एनीवन होल्डिंग म्यूचुअल फंड, मतलब एक एमएफ का यूनिट ट्रस्ट होल्डर 6 मंथ्स का बिलो इज जस्ट 20%. मतलब 6 मंथ्स हम लोग इतना लेवल पे डेवलप हो चुका है, हम म्यूचुअल फंड पे भी ट्रेड करना चालू कर दिया. दैट्स अ वेरी बिग रिस्क. Another interesting, which Siddharth sir actually brilliantly explained this part. Like you would have heard that sir telling about हम जीरो से लेके आज इतना बड़ा मार्केट में इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स में कर रहे हैं. Let me show the data. Can you see here the sector wise profits? पूरा साल का प्रॉफिट FY 2022 consolidated PAT of Nifty 500 companies. It's coming out to be a 10,22,437 crores. And look at interestingly here, auto ancillary and auto देखो 7,147 crores उसका टोटल पैट, और ऑटो को 1,360 crores, दोनों जुड़ा के लेकेंगे. If you take it both together, it's 8,500 crores. But look at the PLI announced in that one single damn sector. It's 26,000 crores. और PLI मिलता है 5 साल के लिए, right? If you divide that by 5, उसका मतलब 5,000 crores पर साल उसको आएगा, right? 5,000 crores, 8,000 crore, 8,500 crores plus 5,000 crores. That means 13,500 crores का PLI इस सेक्टर में आएगा. मतलब इस सेक्टर will make a PAT of 13,500 crore. If you even take a neutralized 20 multiple जो निफ्टी को मिलता है, still that sector need to be re-rated. Look at another interesting side. इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स जो जीरो था, आज इंडेक्स में, निफ्टी इंडेक्स में भी, निफ्टी 50 में भी नहीं है, निफ्टी 100 में भी नहीं है. वो सेक्टर को the PLI announcement is 40,000 crores. Think when this 40,000 crores will be the PAT of the companies cumulatively. उसका valuations क्या बनता है? So if you calculate entire this thing, we wanted to see FY 22 में जो announcements हुआ है PLI का, is that reflected? Yes, that is being reflected. हमारा 10 lakh crore profit has increased to 15 lakh 34,861 crores. And currently TTM basis में we are trading at 27 multiple. This is the change that we have seen because of the PLI, and PLI has become continuous. And also Siddharth sir also mentioned about why semiconductor. If you see semiconductor में government has announced 50%, central government has announced 50% capital incentive, right? And 25% is been announced by the state government. भाई धंधा करने वाला को बस 25% लगाना, उसमें तो 15% खुद का इक्विटी ले जाएगा, 10% का तो डेट लेके आ जाएगा. And his investment is just 25%. मतलब 100 रुपए में 25 रुपीज, उसने पहले साल ही वो 25 रुपीज का सेल्स करेगा. थिंक इन दैट फॉर्मेट दैट ही इज डूइंग हिज इन्वेस्टमेंट का इक्विवेलेंट तो उसका सेल होगा पहला साल में. उसका जो प्रॉफिट रहेगा पैट डिवाइडेड बाय उसका एक्चुअल इन्वेस्टमेंट, इफ यू सी, his ROCEs will be like skyrocketed. That's what is happening in the semiconductor industry. Another interesting, which was one of the co-authors of one of the co-founders of IFL Wealth. He did one study. This book came in, I think, 8 years back. $500 million raise. So if you read that book that day, he took 21 examples over there. Author ने 21 examples लिया है. उस examples को देखेंगे तो he talks about how India is progressing and how women is progressing in India. That was the stage that he spoke about. If you see that entire story, you would love reading it. And वो women empowerment as the biggest theme is playing out. आज बहुत ही बड़ा theme है वो. If you look at every manufacturing unit, I recently been to Maruti plant in near Delhi. So if you look at their gender ratio is 40-60. That's the kind of dominance which is coming it up. In the manufacturing unit, you are having a woman, that means it's a very big thing. India is changing from the ground level also. So if this is another interesting data over here. if you see the rural and urban consumption का percentage के हिसाब से, entire food is growing very narrowing. Rural spending or as well as urban spending is very narrowing. ये हमने लिया है 2022-23 का household consumption data से, expenditure data से. If you see this interesting data that tells that India is spending. Why India is spending? What lets India spending? इसका मतलब इंडिया में ना इससे पहले for every 5 people or every 4 people it was one person who was earning the money. One household used to lead the house. But now currently, if you see for every household, it is 2 people who are leading the house. उसका मतलब 2 लोग इंडिया को चला रहे हैं, मतलब every household को 2 लोग चला रहे हैं, उसका मतलब disposable income ज़्यादा बढ़ रहा है. Disposable income coming into existence of a person, that means that expenditure on the capital goods, consumer durables and everything that then reduce their time spent in the house, or like quality time need to be spent with another person, and for spending time on the extra work is going down. That's what is happening. That's what is India is happening. Now, if I talk about what kind of companies that we need to look at, we need to look at those kind of companies who are having the strongest cash flows. Every time, cash flow basis pe dekho, nothing on the other things. And I'll give you interesting data. I had also posted about this. आप ये देखेंगे तो I found one company very much interesting. उनका PAT है somewhere around 100 crore. PAT, PBT. And normally we know that government is a 25% share चलता है हमारा, because he is also partner with us. So that means they need to pay around 25 crores of tax expense. But आप cash flow में जाके देखो, direct tax के expense होता है, right? That means an outflow from our end, right? This outflow was 0. And this trend was from the last 4-5 years. उन्होंने पैट पीबीटी नंबर्स ज्यादा दिखा रहे हैं और पैट भी नंबर्स ज्यादा दिखा रहे हैं, बट कैश फ्लो में दे आर नॉट पेइंग द टैक्स. दैट मींस समथिंग इज रॉन्ग, राइट? इफ यू सी द क्यूमुलेटिव नंबर ऑफ पैट taxes and cumulative number of direct tax expense that you pay to the government, if that is not matching, there is something very wrong is happening in that sector. So do some basic sanity checks on the companies. That's where you will land up. And micro level pe jao. It's all about bottom up approach. More than macro level pe government ka spending aa raha hai, focus is coming, and micro level pe if you can find the great management, that's where you can be in. And that's where we thought about writing this book in, it's almost around 4 years now. So if you look at the book, this actually talks about one of the formulas, how this micro sites to find a company. I would love if Siddhartha sir, if you can take about that part and talk about it.
Sure. So many thanks, Koushik. You have very precisely articulated that what is Bharat made of, what is India made of. So what he did is, when you look at the top $4 trillion, he has started speaking about $50 million, $100 million, $1.5 billion, and consolidated picture makes that entire Bharat. Now, the question comes, how do you identify these companies in advance? Because this $4 trillion, you can't buy this $4 trillion. And if you're going to buy the large cap, there are over 5, 7, 10,000 analysts who are chasing these large caps. How do you identify these businesses? And that's where Koushik and we decided that we should democratize investing. How the digitization democratized the investment knowledge, and how Finacle and Shailesh are enabling you to understand. We have also done some little bit of work. And let me explain in very simple terms. And let's have it conversational from here on. Can anyone tell me what is the ultimate motive of any business? Anyone? Please unmute and you can talk about it. Right.
Make money and earn profit.
Make money and earn profit. How do you understand that the company is making profits? How do you understand? So if I say that I'm making profits, how would you know that I'm actually making profits? Anyone? Quick answers.
By seeing the cash flow
Very
the
good.
company is making.
Vishal, fantastic. So you spoke about cash flows. Brilliant. So if I have to understand or value a company or understand the company from because of cash flows, what is the first parameter I should look for in cash flows? What is the first parameter? Anyone, start thinking. Vishal said it right. If you want to ascertain the growth of the company, you have to look for the net profits. But what do you mean by net profit? Ultimately, how much money I'm getting after selling the goods which I'm manufacturing. So that's the cash flows from the from the operating activity, how much cash is actually coming in. Now, sequentially, should it be higher, lower?
Higher.
Perfect. Everybody agrees with it? Rahil raised his hand. Rahil, you want to say something quickly?
Yes, sir. It has to be higher by year. Only then we can see a growth.
Lovely. So everybody agrees to this? So this is the first formula which we kept. Cash flows of the previous year should be lower than the next year, or the next year should be higher. Got it? Very, very simple, intuitive. Now, so Koushik also spoke about very interesting analogy that you only have to put 25 bucks. Rest 75 bucks is being financed, right? He spoke about is being given by the government in form of subsidy, etc., where you just have to put in 10 bucks or 12 and a half bucks. And if you have to have a debt equity of 50 odd percent, which means 1:1. Now, you understand that your money has some value, as in there's a cost attached to it, waiting your cost. How would I value that you are making enough money or not? Because that can happen that I have invested 100 bucks, but I'm still only making 3-4%. It's better that I should not be in that business and I can sell that business and put the money into FD, right? So what is the next parameter you think? How would you?
ROE, return on equity.
Perfect. Return on equity. How do you calculate it?
Net income divided by the equity.
Very, very smart. Very interesting. Anyone else wants to elaborate a little bit more?
So we could have a DuPont analysis for it.
Yeah. Good. Okay. What if my net income may be net profit or PBT, whichever number you take, what if I've cooked it? What if I've shown fictitious sales? Can happen? Yes, Puran.
CFO divided by equity.
Sorry, say that again.
CFO divided by equity.
Fantastic. Fantastic. You're there. Now, if I have to understand prior to that, so I spoke about cooking the books of accounts, right? How would I actually know that my sales is not fictitious? It can happen, right? My sales. Yes.
We can check the cash conversion of the business.
Perfect.
Fantastic. So how very good. Bang on, gentlemen.
Volumes
Can I hear
data.
from someone else also? So you see the bright front seat students. I was always a last seated student, so I would love to hear from some of the backbenchers. Can someone talk more about it? What Rahil spoke about the cash conversion, and what Puran spoke about the cash flows? Mix that cash flow, mix that cash conversion, and give me something. Anyone?
So sir, we can we can find out it through a simple ratio, that is CFO before tax divided by EBITDA of the company. So here
Wonderful. Darshit, you want to say something?
Sir, I just wanted to add that the businesses that have the lowest of the cash conversion cycles would be able to have a higher turnover, and hence the profitability could increase.
Correct. So, sorry. So if the cash conversion is higher, automatically the profitability will be higher because the asset turnover would be higher. Absolutely bang on. So what we have done, the second formula, exactly what all of you spoke about, cash flow from operations divided by EBIT should be at least 50%. Now you would be surprised. Currently, you are in the theoretical world. You are not still in the practical world. You'll be surprised that cash flows. You would think in an ideal situation, the cash flow should at least be 80-90%, right? Because only 10%, 15% should go into the receivables or into the debtors or into the bad debts, etc., etc. You'd be surprised. They are very limited. I won't talk about the numbers, otherwise there will be challenge. But very limited number of companies, they actually have cash conversion ratio which is 50%. 50%. And that is the second. So what we are saying that if you have a cash flow from operations divided by EBIT greater than 50%, you're all right, which means you're at least getting 50% of the cash from from the sales minus cost of goods sold. Essentially, you're getting back 50% in your books. Very interesting. Next comes what we were previously talking about, the cost of capital. Now, somebody spoke about ROE, right? Let's go back to that. And I spoke about that if somebody is cooking their PAT, somebody is cooking their PBT, somebody is cooking their sales. So how do I make sense? And somebody spoke about cash flows. Can someone elaborate more about it? And I want to hear from someone who has not yet spoken. Anyone? Try it, guys. The world is going to be like this. It will not give you opportunity to speak twice again and again. So speak up. There are no right or wrong answers. Don't hesitate. Deepika, you want to speak?
Sorry to interrupt, sir. I just wanted a little more clarity. What are we looking for exactly?
We are looking to create or find companies which can be multi-bagger 100x in 20 years. That's what we are looking to create.
Definitely, sir. I just wanted a little clarity on the current question.
The current question is, somebody spoke about ROCE or ROE. Sorry, my bad. Somebody spoke about return on equity. And I countered saying that I can very well cook the PAT number, PBT number. And then somebody spoke about cash flows. Can you mix and match both of it? Rahil knows the answer. Anyone else? Deepika, you want to try? Maybe right, maybe wrong, doesn't matter. Okay, I'll not put people on spot.
I mean, no, sir. I don't.
I think Vipul might want to go ahead. Yes,
You
Vipul.
can check trade receivables across the years, how much trade receivables are converting year on year.
So, very, very simple. What we are saying is here, once we have checked the cash flows, we are relatively sure that the cash flows are intact, right? Because they are increasing. Second thing, we are also saying that in the practical world, if you're having 50% of the cash flows which are real, you're all right. Now comes the utilization. And here we are talking about is very simple. EBIT divided by total capital employed. Very, very simple. And here, so it's the same formula for ROE. Similarly, what we are saying is if that is greater than 12%. Why 12%? This magical number is fairly simple. Cost of debt is approximately 8, 9, 10, 11 odd percent. Equity has to be higher than that because the risk involved is higher. And hence, if your returns are not in excess of the cost of debt, which is closer to 11, 12%, they can be a negative carry. Hence, 12%. Very, very simple, very, very intuitive. Just put these three filters, and then the thing which I spoke about, which is with regards to the valuations. Valuations is key. Why valuations is key? I'll give you a very simple example. Gold, everybody knows gold, right? We also know that the gold is limited in supply. We also know that gold is the only thing which can create parity. We also know that the US, against all odds, and Koushik spoke about purchasing power parity, right? If purchasing power parity comes in, US is not going to be there because everything is very, very expensive. And why is US there? Because it has very, very strong dollar. And why there is strength of the dollar? US has more debt than any other country in the world. US has more debt to GDP as compared to some of the other not so prosperous nations. It has more debt, right? So-called not so prosperous nations. It has more number of challenges within the country as compared to any other. Why? One massive factor: gold reserves. The total gold reserves of US is closer to 7,500 odd tons. India is closer to 810 odd tons. Germany is second, 3,500 tons. We know that gold is going to be moving northward largely. Governments across the world, in this VUCA world, in this chaotic world, in this war-trodden world, is definitely gonna acquire more gold. So we know that gold is gonna move northward. Currently, the gold is between, in INR terms, it is between 72,000 to 78,000 or 80,000 sometimes, in that range. If I say that, hey, look, gold is gonna be 1 lakh rupees for every 10 grams after 2.5 years, why don't you buy it now? You'll say, and you'll make money. In 5 years, you'll make money. How we say, equity will make money in the longer term, right? We all say, equity will make money in the long term, then why don't you buy gold now? And you know that it will go up. The point is, there is time value of money. Why should you buy something expensive, though it is going to make money in the long term? And hence, valuations are important. And how do you check valuations? How do you check valuations? So we have given a formula also, and we have done this little bit of back testing through the years, through the decades. And we have found that if at any juncture, if you're able to buy this at a reasonable price, you have to make money. Because earnings growth, so you understand that P and EPS are the only two variables. Now, it's very interesting that a lot of people say that I can buy stocks at any price, does not matter. Ultimately, I'll make money. What if your earnings growth? So let's take an example. Your earnings growth is 18-19%. Your P multiple is 90 times. And this earnings growth is consistent. Remember, 18-19% is consistent. And here your P multiple is 80-90 times. What if this P multiples for certain reason drop down to 50 PE multiple? What will happen? There will be haircut, right? In the stock price instantly. Now, even the earnings will remain. It will take at least 2-3 years before you end up making money. Which means that you will lose that time of making money. And hence, valuing stock at a price is extremely important. Now, the exception to this is if you are the only company which is manufacturing it. So Koushik also spoke about, very interestingly, 2-3 sectors. One, he spoke about one in Calcutta, etc., or in Mysore. There are limited companies only. There's no competition. And they cannot have anything further because of norms, because of regulation. So let me give you I can't talk about individual stocks. So let's imagine Airbus. in US, right? Or in France. Is it easy to create an airline manufacturing or aircraft manufacturing company? The answer is no. Hence, Boeing or Airbus will always command that premium, because if airlines, which is the travel of the future, and as people upgrade, and their ambition is to upgrade yourself from the road to the rail to the air, automatically the demand of these will automatically be higher. So wherever there is a challenge of entry and moats are so strong, there the valuations can exceed sometimes. And that's what is happening little bit in the defense companies. Understood? So coming back to this thing, so what we have done is fairly simple. The fourth is what we are saying, that trailing CFO, trailing years cash flow from operations divided by market cap. If it is lower than 15%, which means you are getting back. We spoke about price to earning multiple. We spoke about
which is correct. It is higher than 15.
Sorry, higher than 15%. Sorry, yeah. So it's higher than 15%, which means your cash flows totally come back to you closer to 6.5 years. If you're investing $100 into a stock, your cash flows should match in 6.5 years. And why is this number of 6.5 years? A is 15%. 6.5 years is critical because that is the average life of an economic cycle as well. During thick and thin, if you're able to recover your entire money, that's an appropriate time. And then you can keep growing. Now, interestingly, if the earnings are stronger, this 6.5 actually shrinks because the compounding kicks in. So you'll recover your cash flows maybe in 3.5, 4.5 years, which is looking at the modern economic cycles, which are compressing faster. Details of all of this will be available in this 100x formula. And if you want to get into the depth of investing, you should read this book and do your analysis on the examples given. Because what we have done is we have given almost 15-20 examples with the prices where you can back test them. And if you'll start working on it, it will be interesting. What looked like a great company doesn't turn out to be a great company, and vice versa. So that's number one. Number two, this book also talks about very interesting aspect. Some of you are born with a silver spoon and you can see amongst yourself as well. But some of you are not. Large number of you will enter the corporate world. How would you succeed in the corporate? The challenge is even some of the top B schools in the country, 75 to 80% top B schools in the country, their pass outs also don't become the CXOs. They don't reach the helm of their potential. You have the potential, but you don't reach it. So what do you have to do? That's where the second part of the book also comes. Because one thing is your understanding, your knowledge, your prowess. Second is, how do you make sure that you achieve your peak potential, you reach to the top? Now think about it. 3 important things in the corporate world: your bonus, your salary hike, your promotions. These 3 are 3 critical things in the corporate world. None of it is determined in your presence. None of it you can advocate, you can pitch. How you pitch your stock, right? You pitch your stock. This is the research I have done. This is the thing it is. Yet you are not able to, sometimes you're able to convince in the stock or sometimes not. You can give evidence, but here you are not even present when all the 3 decisions are made. So what is that softer thing to which you can break that glass ceiling and reach your peak potential? So that's also covered in this book. So this book actually helps you. So how Shailesh is an entrepreneur, a very, very successful entrepreneur. Unfortunately, 98% of the entrepreneurs fail. Interestingly, every year, over 25,000 products, 25,000 products, despite of being marketed well, despite of having money prowess, despite of having PR and resources, fail. What is the solution? This is what is spoken in this book. So what you need to do is, when you pick up this book, take a pen or take a pencil and make notes. Every chapter of this book will relate with your life. And wherever in doubt, go back. Go back. This is not a book which you have to read and then just forget about it. This is a book which should be on your desk. Whenever in doubt, go back and see what happened. This is what it will enable you. So the endeavor of Koushik and mine is to democratize success. Democratize success for somebody who doesn't come from a privileged background, who doesn't come from the top schools, who doesn't come with a huge prodigy. So that's the whole endeavor.
I'll just add one point over here, sir,
Yes, Koushik,
on
yes.
the cash flow nature that we spoke about. So if you look at the 100x formula, the 4 formulas that we where Siddhartha clearly bang on the explanation, but I just wanted to take a couple of more minutes on that entire formula. Each and every formula is run for the first 5 years. Formula 1 gets tick, then only you will go to the Formula 2. If Formula 2 gets tick, then only you will go for the Formula 3. And you will do this for last 5 years consecutively. It's not like मैंने तीनों formula डाल दिया और तीनों में जो निकल के आया. No, one by one, step by step, it should go. So everywhere, like if you're putting around 5,000 listed companies into them, the first formula clears out majority of them. The second formula clears out another one, and the third formula then clears another chunk. And then your work happens. It will start for here that you need to see which is the best valuation, and then you have to look at the business nature, and then you have to get into them. That's how it has been. And also, if I wanted to make very more clarity on that first formula, that is cash flow of not one will be greater than the not, that is the last year. Why will this be true? There are 4 situations for it to be true. 1, your sales growth is coming. Why will sales growth come? 2 things: volume growth is coming or realizations is picking up, right? Very simple. It might be like, even if you're looking at volumes, there are 2 kinds of volumes. खुद का product खुद बेच रहे, खुद manufacture करके, or you might be traded goods. You're buying it from someone else and you're selling it by branding yourself. So there might be a situation in some kind of companies, as a nature, business of nature, you know that trader revenue, gross margin will never be greater than the manufactured margin, right? You will find examples in Indian context where trader margin will be greater than the manufacturing margin. तब समझ जाना कुछ तो गलत है, नहीं तो कुछ तो गलत खुद का मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पे है. There's those kind of companies also. So now you know what sales growth, पहला वाला तो चीज तो sales growth आना चाहिए. Second thing, your margin should expand. Margin expansion के लिए क्या होता है? COGS. How will COGS work? COGS में 3 चीजें होगा: work in progress, finished goods, and raw material. If you look at raw material, what you buy, you can play with raw material. कैसे मतलब उसका valuation पे, नहीं तो you can buy it at a सस्ता price and you can wait for some time and then you can use it. If it is a perishable good, then तो उसका तो कुछ नहीं कर सकते, उसका तो last in last out is the best way to do it. But if it is something like it's not a non-perishable good, first in first out will work out. If you want to increase your margin, if company wants to literally increase its margin, you can there are some accounting way that you can manipulate your inventory. And again, you know that if the majority of your money, if you're looking at a business and in your COGS पे, the focus is coming on the raw material. Total raw material का inventory में, total raw material being the highest, safer company. Final जो finished good है ना, वो ज़्यादा बढ़ रही है. There are only two situations. First situation is that आपका sales बढ़ने वाला है, इसीलिए तो आपको कुछ बड़ा ऑर्डर आया है, इसीलिए आप बना रहे हो. Second thing, मेरा प्रोडक्ट चल रहा है, no one is buying it. Getting my point? ये है, उसके वजह से मेरा ग्रॉस मार्जिन बढ़ेगा. क्लियर? द थर्ड फॉर्मूला क्या हो सकता है? उसका नीचे वाला, दैट इज दैट हाउ इज माई एबिटदा लेवल पे मेरा ऑफिस एक्सपेंसेस कम कर दो, नहीं तो आई एम बिकमिंग लीनर. मतलब असेट्स पे लीनियर, डिप्रिसिएशन अमोर्टाइजेशन, नहीं तो इट्स बहुत सिंपल, ऑपरेटिंग लिवरेज और फाइनेंसिंग लिवरेज, दिस टू इज प्लेइंग इट आउट टू अस. दैट मीन्स दैट इज द रीजन आर margins is increasing. That means that our cash flows are increasing. And the fourth thing, आपका payables को पे मत करना. Fourth simple thing, that is where you will make your cash flow from operations greater. नहीं तो टैक्स को उड़ा दो ना, गवर्नमेंट को पे मत करो, बोलो तुम कुछ भी कर लेना, मैंने करूंगा. That's the fourth thing. This is how your cash flows will be generated. If it is, this is manipulative for 1 year, right? Cash flow can be manipulated for 1 year. Can you manipulate cash flow for the second year, third year and the fourth year? हो ही नहीं सकता है. कितना भी, मतलब greatest of the greatest accountant, we cannot manipulate the cash flow more than 3 years conservatively. Fifth year में मिलना ही तो चाहिए. आप क्लियरली देखेंगे ना, कैश फ्लोस मिल जाएगा. एंड अनदर वे, आपका कैश फ्लो दिखा दिया आपने, बट सारा का सारा कैश फ्लो ही कंटीजेंट लायबिलिटी हो गया, तो दिस इज ऑल्सो अनदर सिचुएशन, राइट? तो तब भी हम लोग फंस गया. सो इफ द फर्स्ट फॉर्मूला, फर्स्ट सैनिटी चेक जो है ना 5,000 कंपनी में, उसमें ना आधा का आधा दुनिया नहीं आता. दैट्स द स्ट्रेंथ ऑफ द फर्स्ट फॉर्मूला. इफ यू लुक एट द सेकंड फॉर्मूला, कैश फ्लो डिवाइडेड बाय एबिट, ये हम लोग 50% बोला है, 60% है बुक में. रीजन क्या है? 40% जाके मेरा फंसने वाला है वर्किंग कैपिटल पे, राइट? खुद का कोई भी धंधा करो, लाइक यू पीपल कम फ्रॉम सूरत, वेरी सिंपल. सूरत इज नोन फॉर व्हाट? डायमंड, डायमंड ट्रेडिंग के लिए, नहीं तो डायमंड वो क्राफ्टिंग पहले पता है. सेकंड थिंग, दे आर नोन फॉर देयर टेक्सटाइल. जिससे भी बात करो, मैं टेक्सटाइल का ट्रेडिंग कर रहा हूँ, नहीं तो टेक्सटाइल धंधे में हूँ, टेक्सटाइल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में हूँ. दैट्स व्हाट इज नोन फॉर सूरत. व्हाट इज टेक्सटाइल धंधे में सबसे बड़ा कॉस्ट क्या होता है? इन्वेंट्री, राइट? यू नीड टू हैव डिजाइनर्स एंड बहुत सारा इन्वेंट्री को बेचो, उसमें आपको फंसने वाला है. दैट मीन्स लुक एट योर ट्रेड रिसीवेबल्स. आपका रिसीवेबल्स जो आने वाला है, आप उसी रिसीवेबल्स को बैटेड कर रहे हो क्या? इफ दैट इज हैपनिंग, पुराना वाला बैटेड कर दो, बट नया वाला में कर रहे हो क्या? कुछ तो प्रॉब्लम है. वेरी क्लियरली यू लुक एट योर कैश कन्वर्जन इज गेटिंग कन्वर्टेड टू योर कैश और नॉट. पैसा पे देखो, गल्ला में जो पैसा आता है ना, वो इंपॉर्टेंट होता है. सब कुछ दिखाना तो बात का बात है, राइट? इट्स वेरी क्लियर. मेरा गल्ला में पैसा आ रहा है तो मतलब सब कुछ सही है, मेरा गले में नहीं आ रहा है तो मतलब कुछ तो गलत है, राइट? व्हाट इज माय थर्ड फॉर्मूला? सिंपल एंड क्लियर. रोकी, मतलब रोकी का मतलब क्या है? एबिट डिवाइडेड बाय टोटल कैपिटल पुट डाउन. बिलो में मेरा लायबिलिटीज, टोटल लायबिलिटी ले लो, मतलब इक्विटी प्लस डेट, यही है ना रोकी में. नीचे वाला नंबर क्या होता है? डेट भी ना, जीरो डेट वाला कंपनी, सोच लीजिए जीरो वाला डेट कंपनी है. नीचे वाला क्या है? वो मोटा भाई होता है. क्यों मोटा भाई? मेरा जिंदगी का पूरा कमाई इज माई इक्विटी, और इस साल का कमाई, एक साल का कमाई इज ऊपर वाला. न्यूमरेटर विल बी एवरी टाइम थिन, डिनोमिनेटर विल बी एवरी टाइम मोटा. और इसका मतलब 12% कर रहे हैं, इस साल 12% नहीं किया है, उसका मतलब गलत भी है, वह भी नहीं है. उसका कैपिटल यूटिलाइजेशन सही नहीं है, इस साल गलत है. समझ में आ रहा है? इसका कैपिटल एलोकेशन इज नॉट सो स्ट्रॉन्ग, दैट्स द रीजन इज बिलो 12. If his capital allocation is so right, capital allocation on his business, नया बिजनेस नहीं तो खुद का बिजनेस ग्रोथ पे कर रहे हैं, वो कैपिटल एलोकेशन सही है, तो मतलब 12% के ऊपर जाएगा. क्यों? तो आपका ऊपर वाला चीजों को क्या कर रहे हैं? वो मोटा बना रहा है. एक साल का कमाई डिवाइड बाय 20 साल का, 30 साल का पैट है भाई मेरा नीचे. right? That's what is ROCE. Look at your ROCE is good or not. If you can make your ROCE great, and that means that your capital allocation decisions are right. Okay, and the fourth formula बहुत सिंपल फॉर्मूला है भाई, इतना सारा सही कर दिया, इसको तो वैल्यूएशन पक्का हो ज्यादा रहेगा. गो क्रेजी दैट इट इज गोइंग टू बी दैट गिवन ट्रूथ, इसका वैल्यूएशन ज्यादा रहेगा, बट मैं ज्यादा वैल्यूएशन में तो पैसा नहीं कमा पाऊंगा. व्हाट टू डू? ये सबसे बड़ा क्वेश्चन था हमारे लिए. तो व्हाट वी डिड वाज वी वर लुकिंग एट, हमको ये फॉर्मूला फाइंड आउट करने में भी ना, वी सेड दैट 100x कौन हो चुका है, like let us see who earned dollar 100x. We did reverse multiplications. That's how we came up with these formulas. And the last formula बहुत interesting है, payback period. किसका सबसे ज्यादा कम पेबैक पीरियड होगा कैश फ्लो के हिसाब से, वो सबसे बढ़िया काम करेगा. मतलब हम लोग क्या समझ रहे, लास्ट 5 साल तक ये टिक टाक चला है सब कुछ इस धंधे में, तो नेक्स्ट 5 साल भी अच्छा चलेगा. एंड एग्जिट स्ट्रेटेजी है इसके साथ. इफ यू लुक एट द बुक, इट हैज एन एग्जिट, क्लियर एग्जिट. 5 साल हो गए तो निकल जाओ. वो अच्छा सेक्टर है गलत सेक्टर है कुछ मतलब नहीं है मेरे लिए. इट इज एन ऑटोमेटेड पोर्टफोलियो एंड एवरी पर्सन हु वांट्स टू, मतलब पीएमएस को अफोर्ड नहीं कर पाएगा, कुछ नहीं कर पाएगा, उसको बस 600 रुपए अफोर्ड करना है मेरे बुक के लिए. डन. 600 में पीएमएस सर्विस इज फ्री, म्यूचुअल फंड सर्विस इज फ्री. दैट्स व्हाट इज आवर बुक इज टॉकिंग अबाउट. So if you focus on these 4 important formulas, right, you'll understand what it is actually about investing. And एक चीज, कोई भी कंपनी में, ये मेरा बुक भी छोड़ दीजिए, एक सिंपल चीज बोलूंगा, ये टैक्स वाला, जस्ट गो डू दिस, मैजिकल नंबर है ये तो. गवर्नमेंट को टैक्स, मेरा पीएनएल में टैक्स मार रहा हो, उसका मतलब गवर्नमेंट को पे करना है, राइट? मेरा पीएनएल का नंबर ज्यादा है देन माय कैश फ्लो नंबर, उसका मतलब मेरा टैक्स क्रेडिट लायबिलिटी रहेगा. मेरा, मैंने ज्यादा गवर्नमेंट को पे कर दिया एज इन कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट में, बट मेरा पीएनएल में कम नंबर है, उसका मतलब टैक्स एसेट रहेगा मेरे लिए, डेफर्ड टैक्स एसेट रहेगा. ये बहुत सिंपल लॉजिक है. एवरीवन नो अबाउट दिस लॉजिक. एक सिंपल चीज करिए ना, क्यूमुलेटिव लेवल पे, क्यूमुलेटिव लेवल पे टैक्स को जुड़ा लीजिए और जो पीएनएल में है, और साथ ही साथ कैश फ्लो में जो क्यूमुलेटिव लेवल पे टैक्स को जुड़ा दिए. यू सु कैश फ्लो का टैक्स डिवाइडेड, टैक्स एक्सपेंस डिवाइडेड बाय पीएनएल का टैक्स एक्सपेंस. If that number is not greater than 50 or 60%, जरूर काला है भाई, निकल जाओ. देखो मत उधर, भागो. गवर्नमेंट सब्सिडी देता है, तो गवर्नमेंट सब्सिडी देगा तो तुम्हारा पीएनएल में भी दिखाओ ना वो सब्सिडी, माइनस करो ना. तुम्हारा टैक्स सब्सिडाइज हो रहा है तो उधर भी दिखाओ ना, टैक्स रेट कम कर दो उधर. नहीं, टैक्स रेट उधर कम नहीं हो रहा तो मतलब गवर्नमेंट सब्सिडी नहीं मिला है. गवर्नमेंट सब्सिडी नहीं मिला है तो बोलने के लिए बोल सकता है, बट नहीं हुआ है. तो look at that location also. So, and someone told about DuPont analysis. Wow, crazy thing. DuPont analysis क्या होता है? It is 3 step. एक तो है हमारा asset turns, दूसरा है हमारा this one net profit margin, तीसरा है financial leverage. किसका रोकी, मतलब किसका रोई ज्यादा बन रहे, किस रेशियो से? If it is happening through your net profit margin, लास्ट 5 साल के लिए रोकी ले आरओई ले लीजिए. लुक एट दिस व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, एंड यू आल्सो एक्सपेक्ट दिस कंपनी टू डू फर्दरली समथिंग, राइट? यू विल आल्सो प्रेडिक्ट, राइट? मतलब मुझे मेरे अकॉर्डिंग क्या होने वाला है, कंपनी के अकॉर्डिंग क्या होने वाला है. इफ योर आरओई इज ड्रिवन बाय नेट प्रॉफिट मार्जिन, if your net profit margin is the contributor for your ROE, that means that entire company will be valued on price to earnings ratio. Simple, right? If your entire ROE is driven by price to sales, मतलब asset turn, if your asset turn की वजह से वो ROE ड्रिवर हो रहा है, उसका मतलब उसका प्राइस टू सेल्स पे वैल्यू करना कंपनी को. इफ योर ROE is driven by leverage, भैया लिवरेज के साथ ड्राइव हो रहे, उसका तो EV by EBITDA होता है, राइट? सिंपल है. वैल्यूएशन किसके साथ क्या कंपेयर करना. अभी आपका सेक्टर पे बोलते हैं, मतलब लोग बोलते हैं लाइक कंपनी ए कंपनी बी दोनों एक ही सेक्टर का है, राइट? बोथ आर फ्रॉम द सेम सेक्टर. लेट्स टेक ईएमएस सेक्टर से है, बोथ द कंपनीज आर ईएमएस सेक्टर. दोनों का पी क्यों अलग है भाई? समझना, उसका एसेट टर्न्स की वजह से हो रही है और इसका तो नेट प्रॉफिट मार्जिन से हो रही है. इसको तो मैं पी से ही देखना पड़ेगा, उसको मैं एसेट प्राइस टू सेल्स ही करना पड़ेगा. मैं एप्पल एंड बनाना कंपैरिजन नहीं कर सकता इधर, राइट? पीयर सेट कंपैरिजन नहीं हो सकता इधर. एक अंदाजा मोटा मोटा इस धंधे में किस सेगमेंट से मार्जिन बने वो सब देख सकता हो. कैसे वो अकाउंटिंग यूज कर रहे हो वो सब देख सकता हूँ, बट वैल्यूएशन इज नॉट पीयर सेट, नेवर एवर इट इज ए पीयर सेट। वो मेरा सेक्टर में ना वो 20 पर, फॉर एग्जाम्पल हिस्ट्री में हुआ था, तो हम ए आई टी कंपनी था, जो सत्यम करके बोलते हैं उसको, लाइक सत्यम एवरी टाइम सत्यम का हिस्ट्री में ना उसका पी बहुत कम था। इफ यू हैव सीन विद टेक महिंद्रा और इफ यू हैव सीन विद विप्रो इन्फोसिस के साथ, व्हाई इज पी वाज वेरी लो। तो लोग सेल साइड एनालिस्ट बाय साइड एनालिस्ट यही फिलोसफी आते थे, भाई इसका री रेटिंग हो जाना है, इसका प्राइस बढ़ेगा तो ये मल्टीपल मिलेगा, ये मार्केट कैप होगा, लेट्स गो एंड बाय। भाई कभी नहीं बनने वाला है वो बात। उसका पी इसीलिए कम था बिकॉज सब मार्केट को कुछ तो पता था, कुछ तो लफड़ा है भाई उधर, राइट। सो इट्स नंबर्स ना, नंबर से मत देखिए, नंबर के साथ उसका पीछे कुछ स्टोरी होता है, उस स्टोरी के साथ जुड़ा दीजिए ना, आपको सब कुछ स्टोरीज पता चल जाएगा। दैट्स व्हाट इज एन एनालिस्ट वर्क, स्टोरी के साथ नंबर जुड़ना, और इतना देर बैठना, वैल्यूएशन आ गया ना, घर भी बेच के ले लेने का। दैट्स ऑल अबाउट इक्विटी एंड दैट्स वेयर वी हैव स्पोकन। ये हमने किया है, हमारा बुक में लिखा है, और ये देखो मतलब इंटरेस्टिंग है, मतलब इक्विटी मार्केट ना इतना इंटरेस्टिंग है ना, हर रोज एक नया स्टोरी मिलता है। कोई भी आएगा, भाई ये कंपनी देखो ये इतना बढ़िया कर रहा है, कोई हंड्रेड्स ऑफ पीपल विल टेल यू दैट दिस कंपनी दिस कंपनी दिस कंपनी। एक ही यार वो कैश फ्लो वाला देखता भी नहीं है कोई आजकल तो। आई रिमेम्बर वेरी रिसेंटली ऑर्डर बुक के हिसाब से वैल्यूएशन, भाई ऑर्डर बुक आया है उसके लिए मल्टीपल मिल गया। ऑर्डर बुक देखो, कंपनी ना ये अनाउंस किया था समवेयर अराउंड माय ऑर्डर बुक इज दिस मच, आई रिसीव दिस मच ऑर्डर बुक। उसका नेक्स्ट एक हफ्ते के बाद ना दूसरा अनाउंसमेंट आया, आई हैव वॉट एवर ऑर्डर बुक आई हैव रिसीव्ड आई हैव साइंड इट। डिस्क्लोजर्स में लिखना आता है ना सभी के लिए, तुमको देना होता है वो डिस्क्लोजर, बीएससी में अनाउंसमेंट्स देना होता है ना, तो लिखा वो, उसके लिए फिर से मार्केट कैप बढ़ गया। भाई आजकल का दुनिया बहुत डिफरेंट चल रही है, मार्केट कैप बनने ना बहुत इजी इजी हो रही है। बी वेरी केयरफुल विथ ऑल ऑफ दिस, लुक एट इट व्हाई इट इज हैपनिंग, एंड इवन व्हाई एवरीवन टेल डीसीएफ डीसीएफ डीसीएफ। डीसीएफ का मतलब क्या है भाई, कभी डीसीएफ को बिलिंग मत करना। छोटा चेंज ऑफ योर परसेंटेज ऑन एनी ऑफ द एलिमेंट, राइट, टर्मिनल वैल्यू और जो भी ना, इतना छोटा पॉइंट में कर दूंगा ना, पूरा बाइक भी कर सकता हूँ उस पर, सेल भी दिखा सकता हूँ उस पर, होल्ड भी दिखा सकता हूँ। Playing with it's DCF is nothing but playing with numbers, right? There is nothing called DCF. Look about all about your payback period. Payback period का 6 साल, ये मैजिकल नंबर है, 6 to 7 साल। ये एक इकोनॉमी का साइकिल होता है, वो सारा साइकिल में मेरी कंपनी कैसे कर रही है वो पता चल जाएगा। 5 years हिस्ट्री एंड नेक्स्ट 5 years, मेरे तो 10 साल उसका जर्नी में, 7 साल का मैं एक इकोनॉमी देख लिया, मैं उस पर आ गया भी और नहीं तो कल भी आ गई। एंड देर इज नेवर थिंग कॉल्ड एज बाय एंड होल्ड एंड सिट, वो तो है ही नहीं दुनिया में। हर 6 महीने उसके वापस जाके देखो, हर क्वार्टर उसका कॉन कॉल सुनो, हर हर 6 महीने में, हर 3 महीने का ही प्रेडिक्शन लेके चलना।
So another
प्रोमोटर
thing,
को पता नहीं कल क्या होने वाला है, तो वो कैसे बताएगा भाई 10 साल क्या होगा।
just one point where what Koushik was saying, and I'll just add, and then Koushik, you may continue. Two very interesting things. Number one is what Koushik spoke about, the DCF. Now think about it. If I take the terminal value as very, very high, or I change the discounting weighted average cost of capital, both can change the numbers very, very dramatically. So what Koushik said, be very cautious of it. Number two, what also Koushik spoke about is the prediction of the future. Now, how do you predict? And this is an art, and Koushik will take forward from here. But imagine if a promoter on the con call is saying that after 1 quarter or after 2 quarters, this will be the number. When you're hearing the con call and matching the con call, don't hear the today's call. Before you go and hear the call, hear last 1 year call, at least 1 year back. What he said will happen after 2 quarters or 3 quarters. Match that. Remember, what Koushik in softer terms is constantly saying is a lot of people assess the caliber of the company, caliber of the promoter. Don't look at the caliber, look at the character. Because जो आपका चरित्र है ना, वो तब पता चलता है जब आप विपरीत परिस्थितियों में होते हैं और चरित्र नहीं बदलता. People hide it. When times are good, they become sant. Otherwise, they are devil, right? So, if you get stuck in any company which is trying to portray that they are doing extremely well, but they have done a lot of wrong stuff in the past, when times will be tough, they will turn around. And that's where what Koushik is constantly speaking in different manners is cash flows, your portion of your cash flows to come back. 6.5 years, if you compound even faster. Today it's 6.5 years, but if the compounding is higher, you can actually get the money back in 4.5 years. That's the point. Sorry, Koushik, please carry on.
No, so you added great point over there. So if someone talks to me, I make him bearish a lot. I'm sorry for that. That's my nature. But एक चीज तो बता सकता हूँ, never ever believe the papers. Never ever believe anything whom you hear to. Never believe even your teachers or your friends also. Not even your parents. खुद का देखा नहीं, खुद ने सुना, देखा नहीं, खुद ने वर्कआउट नहीं किया, खुद ने नहीं सुना है ना, उस तब तक कुछ भी बिलीव मत करना. नॉट इवन मी. है दुनिया में कुछ भी कर सकते हैं. लाइक इफ यू सी, इवन आई वांटेड टू गिव यू ऑन सिंपलर नोट पे एक सिंपल एक्सरसाइज करना. कोई भी लिस्टेड कंपनी ले लीजिए एक्सरसाइज के लिए. एक सिंगल बिजनेस और 2 बिजनेस 3 बिजनेस, ज्यादा बिजनेस में मत जाना. डाइवर्सिफाइड बिजनेस में जाएगा ना, दिक्कत होती है एनालाइज करने में. गो विद 2-3 मैक्स टू मैक्स बिजनेस पे. लास्ट 15 साल का एनुअल रिपोर्ट डाउनलोड कर, पहले डाउनलोड कर लो. और उसको क्या करो, आप इस साल वाला मत पढ़ना, पहले 15 साल पीछे वाला एनुअल रिपोर्ट का एम एंड मैनेजमेंट डिस्कशन पढ़ना. बस मैनेजमेंट डिस्कशन, डोंट इवन डू एनीथिंग. और उसको क्या करो ना, मैनेजमेंट डिस्कशन कॉपी करो, वर्ड फाइल में पेस्ट करो. ऐसे ना लास्ट 15 साल का ऊपर से नीचे तक, मतलब यू से द डॉक्यूमेंट फ्रॉम द ओल्ड टू द न्यूएस्ट ईयर, और उसको पहले ऊपर चले जाना. वर्ड सिंपली इसको क्या करो, सिंपल चीज में एनुअल रिपोर्ट पढ़ो, वो 15 साल पहला वाला एनुअल रिपोर्ट पढ़ो. उसमें ना वो टाइमलाइन बोलता है, मैं ये करना चाहता हूँ इस साल पे, मतलब आई वांटेड टू डू, और ही विल प्रॉमिस यू सम थिंग्स, राइट. उस प्रॉमिस को पहले पिंक कलर, ब्लू कलर, जो कलर चाहिए उस कलर में हाईलाइट करो. जो अचीव हुआ उसको ग्रीन दो, और जो अचीव हुआ वो ग्रीन कलर ऐसे होना चाहिए, डार्कर ग्रीन दो, विच इज विथ वो टाइम जो बोला है उस टाइम पे अचीव कर दिया. नहीं तो डेडलाइन थोड़ा हो सकता है यार, एग्जीक्यूशन है, ये हिंदुस्तान है, सब कुछ होता है, तो लेट हो गया तो उसको भी ग्रीन दो ना, बट लाइटर ग्रीन दो. जो प्रॉमिस किया वो तो है ही नहीं, उसको रेड दो. जो हर टाइम प्रॉमिस करते रहे, कितना रेड मार्क्स आएगा उतना बुरा है, कितना ग्रीन मार्क्स आए उतना अच्छा है. और वो उसने बोला है, बट उसने करने के लिए कोशिश किया, कुछ तो प्रॉब्लम हो के उसको ये हो गया ना. धंधे में प्रॉब्लम भी होता है, राइट. टेक्सटाइल धंधे में प्रॉब्लम होता है ना, आप सब लोग तो उसी हब से आते हो. टेक्सटाइल धंधे में भी प्रॉब्लम होता है ना, हर धंधे में प्रॉब्लम, तो उसको येलो करो. ज्यादातर ग्रीन रहना है, कम येलो रहना है, उससे भी कम रेड रहना है. उसके बाद जाके देखो, प्रॉमिस करता है, जो बोलता है वो तो करता है, जो बोलता है वो नहीं किया है, तो आगे जो बोलेगा वो कैसे करने वाला है. हिस्ट्री रिपीट्स, राइट. मोदी जी जो बोला है वो तो किया है ना, इसीलिए तो आज जूता है, तो आगे करेंगे. सिंपल थॉट्स.
One point again I'll add here. So Koushik spoke about is diversified businesses. Be very, very cautious when you are looking at diversified businesses. Why? Because Koushik also spoke about in the DuPont analysis, different businesses are valued differently. Different businesses need different amount of capital. They have different operating leverage. They have different financial leverage. You understand that, right? Services need different operating leverage, right? A lot of NBFCs need different financial leverage. So manufacturing need different operating leverage. So different businesses would require differently. Where the holdco is listed and you have multiple diversified businesses, avoid those businesses in general. In general, why? Because what will happen is different businesses will go through different cycles. And when different cycles will happen, ultimately minority shareholders' money would subsidize the business which is not doing well. So it's very simple. If my left hand pains, my automatically right hand rises and eases it out. So good money chases bad money. Instead of that, look for adjacencies, backward and forward integration. Adjacencies, you understand? So if I am in a business and my breadth can be increased, I'm all right. If I do a forward or a backward integration, my margin will increase. Rather than getting into diversified businesses. I'm into retail. Tomorrow I start manufacturing. Tomorrow I start manufacturing roads, unrelated businesses. And that's where the interesting part also comes into play is bandwidth allocation. Ultimately, we as humans can only focus on as much, right? As much. We all have 24 hours. If I start doing multiple things, my distraction would be higher, isn't it? And if although I'm very super efficient, but I would want to succeed in all the places. And it cannot happen. Frustration will come in one business, second business is doing well. I'll start moving resources from the business which is doing well into the businesses which is not doing well. Who's going to suffer? The minority shareholder. Promoter doesn't care, right? This is actually also happens with parents, and you can test it because investing in life is quite similar, and that's what we have spoken in the book. If anyone has siblings, you may relate, you don't have to tell me, you can relate to it. If there are siblings of yours, there's somebody who's a favorite of mother or favorite of father. Generally, the brighter child, and you know who's a brighter child in your sibling, the brighter child gets lesser attention. The brighter child gets lesser resources. The brighter child is always supposed to compromise. The one who was little bit not so great gets more attention, more privileges automatically. And that's the analogy, because what if the one who's brighter would have got those resources? He would have been a bigger champion than the one he is today or she is today. So that's where try and see through that. So avoid businesses which are absolutely unrelated, diversified businesses. Very difficult to make money. And if you look at global successes also, forget about India, even global successes, people have been very, very focused. Netflix, same business, right? Related business. So barring Tesla, which is SpaceX and which is totally different technology, and Tesla is where it is because initially Tesla made money, and then Elon Musk had the prowess to keep putting his money. That's why he could do whatever he did in Twitter. It doesn't bother because he made money in one core asset and then he splurged the money across all. That's the reason Google, unrelated businesses, they moved it upward, Alphabet. The entire management was different. Google was run differently. So focused businesses will become very, very related businesses, same businesses will become very, very large. Koushik, please continue.
I think we already took a lot of time, but one is someone messaged me, so I'm just taking out here. Someone asked me like trade receivables का कैसे करना है? How to value trade receivable? बहुत सिंपल है भाई. बैंक को जाके बिल डिस्काउंटिंग हो पाएगा क्या उस ट्रेड रिसीवेबल पे पूछो, हो पाएगा तो वो ट्रेड रिसीवेबल सच है, नहीं हुआ तो वो फेक है. If your bank is not discounting your trade receivable, that means the trade receivable fake. It's very simple, right? Why will the bank take that risk? and if he is taking risk, he is going to give you money. और उसको होता है जिम्मेदारी वो कलेक्ट करना, उसको पता रहता है कौन सा एक्चुअल ट्रेड रिसीवेबल है नहीं. और दूसरा वाला 6 months, 6 months अंडर एंड 6 months अबो, ये एक डेटा आता है आपको एनुअल रिपोर्ट पे ट्रेड रिसीवेबल का, वो भी देख लो. जितना है मेरा बहुत जल्दी पैसा आएगा वो अच्छा है, जितना लेट होगा वो थोड़ा रिस्की है. गिव दैट डिस्काउंटिंग फॉर योरसेल्फ. सो एंड लास्ट एंड फाइनल थिंग, आई विल जस्ट एंड ओवर हियर. डीसीएफ मत करना, बट रिवर्स डीसीएफ जरूर करना. रिवर्स डीसीएफ कर से ये पता चलता है आपको कैश फ्लो का ग्रोथ कितना एक्सपेक्टेड है, एंड आपको ये भी पता है कैश फ्लो एबिट द रेशियो कितना चलता है इस धंधे में. तो मतलब आप डायरेक्टली एबिट द नंबर पे आ गया, राइट. EBITDA से you know that for getting this much EBITDA you need to have this much cost. तो रिवर्स मल्टीप्लाई करना, और उससे you can go to till the sales, you can actually go to till the sales. तो you can see that इतना सेल्स ग्रोथ आ सकता है क्या मेरे धंधे में. Is my price of this entire business has been priced according to this much sales, then it is a good thing. If it is not priced for so much cash flows and so much sales growth, then दिक्कत उधर भी है, मतलब you are paying heavy money. रिवर्स DCF ब्रिलियंट थिंग, जिसने भी इन्वेंट किया हैट्स ऑफ है उसके लिए. Charlie Munger tells, right, invert every time works. That's what it is working. Sure, and thanks sir, thanks for giving us time. And I hope आपका comments पढ़ूंगा मैं जरूर Amazon पे if you're buying for sure.
Sir, I think so. We have an initiative called Book Reading Club where we constantly keep an eye out for really good investment read material. And I think for sure we are going to add this book to our book reading club as a compulsory reading material for all of our students. And I think I'm really excited to read it myself. The more I hear you guys talk, I mean, it's always so refreshing to hear both Siddharth sir and you, Koushik sir. It's always a yearly catch up which I look forward to, around Diwali season to Siddharth sir, and then at conferences with Koushik sir. So it's genuinely amazing to learn, and I think to have a first-hand interaction with you guys through reading, when you have penned down so much wonderful thoughts in this material, I think this is going to be a fantastic read for all of us. And what we will do is, as part of the book reading club, when what we do is we typically have all of our students read these materials, and then they populate certain doubts in a doubt form where the faculties of the program, they take care of these doubts. We will be sure to reach out to you guys to answer these doubts for sure, and grab some more time on your calendar to be able to learn again from you guys when you wrote what you got.
Sure.
So we hope you grant us similar learning opportunities in future, and we are really excited to be part of this journey with you guys.
Thanks, sir.
100%, Shailesh. Just one last comment from my end is that once you guys have read this book, make a synopsis of this book and post it, because what will happen is this book is closer to 250, 300 odd pages. 210 is original, is
288.
Yeah. So what you should do is, if you make a synopsis of it, one thing is you are making a synopsis of a company. If you make a synopsis of a book of an investment style, a lot of people will read it from you, from the content which you have created. It will help others, but who will get visibility in your understanding is you. So it's a combined thing. One is what Koushik spoke about, the nuances, and book speaks about it, but can you make it even more simpler for people to read it and value you as an investment analyst and somebody who has acumen in investing? You understand? It cements your position.
Absolutely right, sir. Absolutely right, sir. And in fact, we do have a compulsory PPT presentation on every book they read, and they post it on their blog. So, again, can't wait to share some of the best PPTs.
Sir, I would highly tell that makeup join करने के लिए दे रहे हो वो बता दो.
Sir, we are excited to learn from you. आपसे हम सीखते हैं.
मैंने सर आपका इंस्टीट्यूट के बारे में बहुत ही सुना है. Like I have multiple times reiterated this statement to you. मुझे बता दीजिए, ज्वाइनिंग करने के लिए परमिशन नहीं मिल रहा, मिलेगा तो आई विल जॉइन एज अ स्टूडेंट.
So we're honored to have you guys, and especially even Ashika Group as our campus recruiter. So we're really excited to see our candidates grow with you guys. And I really can't wait to meet you guys once again in person. And thank you for the time you gave. In fact, guys, so what we had requested both Siddharth sir and Kaushik sir was, sir please आप हमें 1 घंटे का time दे दीजिए. I'm really driven to see both these guys actually went over and beyond what we had requested, and I'm so excited to rewatch this session because I was in middle of the journey. I couldn't hear half of the part because of bad network issues. But sir, we will definitely adhere to learnings which you have disparted through this session, and we can't really wait to go through the books and probably share some of the finest notes with you guys or email or through social media tagging. I highly insist everybody to follow that. It gives a great platform, as Siddhartha rightly mentioned, to each and every candidate of the institute to be able to get that visibility on social media platform. So once again, from bottom of our hearts, thank you so much, Siddharth sir. Thank you so much, Kaushik sir. It's always a refreshing
Thanks, sir.
journey to
Thanks
learn
for
from
inviting
you.
us.
Thank you, guys, and best of luck. Make yourself proud, make your parents proud, and make the country proud. And imagine you have to understand Bharat and make Bharat stand out globally. So I hope that some of you at least will give some of the best company ideas to some of the global folks so that your research can propel them, perpetuate them to invest even higher in India. So thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.